Hello and welcome to week 9 CIT 15 Fresno City College. We are in week 9. You can see that right there. So we're going to do two things in these videos. First thing we're going to do is look at what you need to be doing this week, which we do every week. It should be routine by now. And second thing we're going to do is learn some new material, talk about some new material. So this week, week 9, you should go to your assignments here in the class and scroll down to week 9. You should do everything through week 9. So all this should be done. And you can see that we're kind of we did a lot of these things at the front end of the semester. So there's not that much more to do in Canvas. That's kind of good news. I did it that way intentionally. So you get most of it done at the front end. And this week we're going to look at Google Maps and then also programming loops. So do those assignments. And then you also need to come into discussions. And inside discussions, look at The Key to Success by Angela Duckworth. It's on grit. So that's really good. And then my IT lab, you want to go to course materials and my course. This was week 1. Do the exam in there. This is week 2, 3, 4, and 5. Do the 4 exams in there. This is week 6, 7, 8, 9. So you should do exam 4 in Excel. You should also come down to exams here. And you should do the hands-on test for Excel. You should do chapter 9 quiz, and then that's it. So those are the things you need to do to stay on pace in this class. There are no deadlines other than the end of the semester and having purchased my IT lab by a certain date at the beginning of the semester. Other than that, just pace yourself and try to keep up with the recommended guidelines for where you should be. So that's what I just went over, right? You should get that stuff done this week to stay on pace with everybody in the class. So now we're going to talk about a little bit more about, what I'm going to cover is privacy and protecting yourself, privacy and security. We discussed that last week, so we'll visit that a little bit more. And then chapter 9 in the textbook, we'll talk about securing your system, protecting your digital data and devices. So let's start with my notes. I haven't previewed any of this, so this is all off the cuff. And we'll see what comes up. Let me just channel that. Just kidding. When you think about protecting yourself online, right? Like what are the main things that you want to think about? You want to think about who you're interacting with and what information you're giving them. And so when you start to share personal information, if you share it with the wrong people, it could be used negatively. And so that's just a general framework for thinking about protecting yourself online. Who am I interacting with? It's piece number 1. Who am I interacting with? What information am I giving them? So for instance, let's say that you're on some social media platform and you start talking with somebody, communicating with somebody, and you don't know this person, be really hesitant and reserved about sharing who you are, like your real identity, where you live, your phone number. Do that, be very circumspect about doing that. Do that with great reservation. Because once you've shared that information with who knows who, right? Who are you interacting with and what do you share with them? You have no idea where that's going to go. So you want to vet people before you give them personal information about you and your life. And we could do that in person relatively easily, right? We meet people and we talk with them and we could get a sense of who that person is. And then we can make a determination pretty quickly in person how much we want to share about ourselves, how much personal information we want to share about ourselves. That could be a lot more difficult online because people can, present a different image, or you might not have all of the information, or it might be, in some form of a transaction. So it seems like I need to give up information, but you just need to always keep it at the forefront of your awareness. What information am I sharing and who am I sharing it with? That's the bottom line. And so that said, there's sensitive information that you really want to be circumspect about sharing. And so that sensitive information is your name, where you live, your phone number, your email address, I don't know what else, mother's maiden name, bank account, credit card information, right? Your date of birth, your social security number, like all of this sensitive information, be really hesitant about sharing it. So you just be circumspect. What am I sharing? What personal information am I sharing? Who am I sharing it with? So those are kind of like two of the main questions that you want to always think about when you're interacting with anyone or any kind of a site online. And always err on the side of being conservative with what you share about yourself. So this next slide, protecting ourselves, right? So some of the steps we could take to protect ourselves is we could use a VPN. And so you can watch some YouTube videos about VPNs. But basically what a VPN does is allows you to hide what you're looking at from, who do we hide it from? From anybody on any network, right? So you're hiding it from whatever network you're on. And so let's say that, I don't want the government knowing what websites I'm going to. And so I could sign up for a virtual private network, a VPN. And when I'm paying a company, what I'm paying a company to do when I sign up for a VPN, and a nice VPN is Proton VPN. Okay, so this is run out of Switzerland, but you pay them a couple of bucks a month. And then when you go online, you connect to their computer. And their computer could be they have computers all over the world. And the connection between you and their computer is totally encrypted, right? So nobody knows what you are communicating with their computer, wherever it is in the world, let's say Switzerland. And so you say, hey, show me Google's main page. That request gets encrypted. It gets sent to their computer in Switzerland. Then their computer goes and gets Google's page, right? Anonymously, brings it back, right? They go get it. And so Google's like, oh, Proton VPN's asking me for that page again. Gets Google's page back. They encrypt it and send it back to you, and it's decrypted on your computer. So in that scenario, you remain anonymous because you are only communicating with Proton VPN. And Proton VPN is interacting with the rest of the world and then getting whatever you want to look at, encrypting it, sending it back to you, right? So, is the government spying on what you're looking at? Is your employer spying what you're looking at? Whatever the case might be, you don't want your information to be sniffed out over the network, right? As it leaves the coffee shop, goes through the coffee shop Wi-Fi, whatever it is, right? When you encrypt everything and go through this VPN, right? Then the VPN makes the request for you, gets the information, sends it back to you encrypted. It's like a level of security. So that's kind of a good service to know about. That's one thing you could do. One thing you also want to do is watch for shoulder surfers. So you're sitting in a cafe, is your back to the window, right? And you're typing in passwords. Maybe somebody's like looking through the window and watching the password you're typing in. Or maybe somebody's recording with their cell phone. Looks like maybe they're just holding their phone talking on it. But it's actually recording as you're sitting at your laptop, just at the next table over. And then they could go home and play that video again and see what keys you hit as you type in your password, right? So a shoulder surfer. Or maybe there's security cameras in the cafe, and then the security camera is capturing you typing in your password to log into your bank account, right? So you got to watch, right? Like be circumspect before you put in a password. Look around, like who could be looking at what I'm typing in. So watch for cameras. So that's some other stuff you can do to keep yourself safe. Use credit cards for transactions as much as you can, because there's something called Fair Credit Billing Act, and that protects you from credit card fraud. And so if there's ever a transaction which is fraudulent, you just call your credit card company and you say, I didn't buy this. Please reverse the charge. I want to contest it. And by law, it's like amazing, this consumer protection. It kind of astounds me, actually, that this consumer protection exists, because so many things are, it's just out of the ordinary. But many things are more business oriented and less consumer oriented, it seems. So anyhow, the credit cards are responsible for the fraudulent charges. You are not. And so when you use your credit card, if fraud occurs, you just say, I'm contesting this charge. And so that's a really good thing. You also want to track your money. So you could use some software like QuickBooks or Quicken, and then just download your transactions every week. So Quicken, QuickBooks, either one will connect all your accounts, and then it downloads your transactions. You could look at them. So you could see, instead of waiting for your monthly statement, which is 4 to 6 weeks delayed from when a transaction occurred, potentially, you get your transactions on a regular basis. It could be every day. And you just look at them, you say, yeah, that's right, that's right, that's right. So that's helping you keep track on your finances. So it's another good thing for protecting yourself and keeping yourself secure, is using, some kind of software like Quicken or QuickBooks to track your money. In addition, using that software will allow you to categorize transactions. So when it comes time to do your taxes, you could be more smart and save more money and pay less tax by tracking your spending with that software. You want to make sure you have antivirus software. Most of that stuff just runs automatically these days. It comes with computers. You want to back up all your work, right? So most of my work I do store it on Google Drive. So, if I get a new computer, any computer can connect to it, and I log into my Google account, there's all my work. So that should happen. Protect that sensitive info like your social security number, your driver's license number, your mom's last name, your address, your phone number. This is also really important. Freeze your credit. Okay, so you could go to each of the 3 credit bureaus, and they're listed there: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And you could type in Experian freeze credit, or Equifax freeze credit, or TransUnion freeze credit. And what that does is, it does not, when somebody says, hey, when somebody wants to access your credit, they're told, no, this credit's frozen, you can't access it. So what happens is, when you apply for a credit card or apply for some sort of financing to buy a new car or whatever, they have to pull your credit. And they can't give you financing unless they pull your credit. And if your credit's frozen, they can't pull your credit, so they can't give you financing, right? Or whoever's impersonating you, they can't give them financing if your credit's frozen. And so freezing your credit kind of is saying, no new loans can be made on my account until I unfreeze my credit. And then when you need to use your credit, you just quickly say unfreeze, unfreeze, unfreeze. Unfreezes it, they pull your credit, and you say 3 days later, freeze it back up. And so that's a really good thing to lock down, particularly because Equifax, I believe it was, had a credit. They had a data loss of 175 million Americans, like all their social security. It's like half of America, their data was breached. And so that means basically that 1 in 2 people at least, their identity could pretty easily be stolen. So freezing your credit's a good thing to do. Next thing you want to do is use password management software like LastPass. So LastPass is password management software. And and that's going to give you really complex, unique passwords for every site. It's going to remember them. And so you need, you're trusting LastPass to be secure and to not be hacked. But in this world, it's hard to operate without having points of trust. And so trusting a company that is built to, be secure and to not easily be compromised, that's a good bet. And having secure passwords and having all those passwords remembered is a really good idea. And unique passwords and complex passwords for every website or anything that you do is important. And that's way better than, like, I have a relative and they use the same password everywhere. And I'm like, what are you doing? So make sure you use some sort of password management software. You also want to use TwoStep Authentication. So that's kind of TwoStep Authentication is like, you log in and then they send you a text and you have to hit yes, or you have to enter some numbers, right? Or you have to get a secret code somehow through an authentication app and then enter that secret code. So you not only need to know the username and password, what you know, but also you have to have some access code sent to you. So you have to have your phone so you can receive the access code or whatever. So if somebody doesn't have your phone, even if they know the username and password, they can't get into your account because they need your phone to receive that secondary code if that's how it's set up. So that's two-factor, two-step authentication. And that's really important to set up on all bank accounts or, critical accounts, right? So Google, you could set it up on Google. The smoky air, sorry. You could also set it up on bank accounts and things like that. You want to be skeptical. So, before you communicate with anyone, before you give information over, If somebody calls you and says they're calling from the bank, you want to say, yeah, sure you are, buddy. Right? Like that's kind of what you want to think. And so you could listen, you could take down the information, you could say, let me think about this and I'll call the bank back. And then if they try to pressure you, it's a scam. And so you could call your bank back and you say, hey, somebody called me and they said they're from the bank and they said I'm having some problems. Could you check my account and make sure it's okay? So you could call the bank directly at the number that's known for the bank, or you could go stop in at the bank, right? And then they could check your account. But if somebody just randomly calls you, chances are, that might not be legitimate. So always be skeptical. You don't want to click links in email, right? Because sometimes those links can be a phishing scam. So always better just to go to the website and enter the website URL by hand. You want to shred all your mail. So buy a paper shredder and shred any sensitive information that's coming in through the actual paper mail. And then you also want to post thoughtfully any information that you're putting out there about yourself. And you should know that when you take pictures capture your location information. And a lot of websites, the big ones, will strip out your location information when you share those pictures. But, there might be websites that don't. And so if you were to post a picture, like from wherever, I don't know, like you are on Yelp and you take a picture of your dinner and post it, then people might be able to see the location of that picture because that information is all embedded in the picture where the GPS data and everything. So you just want to post thoughtfully. And maybe check, right? Like what information are you sharing? You could turn that setting off on your camera. Don't share location in photos. So that's just some steps you could do to take to protect yourself when you're online. There's the Fair Credit Billing Act. You could pause this video and read it if you like. And one of the greater security risks are employees. So employees to companies, one of the greatest security risks are employees. So employees are the ones who more often than others compromise an employer's system. And I'm just looking to see here if there's anything else. I think I had everything there right at the beginning. I think that's pretty good. And we have a little bit about encryption here, which is interesting. And authentication. So authentication is based upon what you have, what you know, and who you are. So I might have a key, or I might have a ATM card, right? That's something I have. I need that to access money in the ATM. And then I also know PIN codes. That's what I know. So what I have and what I know are being used to access money at the ATM, right? I have the ATM card and I know the PIN, right? What I have, what I know. And then who you are might be like voice recognition or, thumbprint or something like that. It's biometrics. That's how we do authentication. Here's an interesting thing about encryption. This is a very simple cipher, encryption, cipher, and so it's rotate 13, rot 13. So if somebody was to send the message URYYB down there at the bottom, when you go back 13 letters in the alphabet from U, you end up at H. When you go back 13 letters or go forward 13 letters from R, you end up at E. Right? And so you could take that encrypted message, you could unencrypt it, and get the intended message. So it's kind of like the basics of how encryption works. So that's just the highlights for my week, my notes for week 9. I really think that stuff we went over at the beginning of the video is important and good. So review this list and start integrating any of these or all of these into your life so that you can keep yourself safe online. In the next video, we'll look at the textbook PowerPoint for Chapter 9.